Thank you. A 6-month investigation between federal and local agencies led to a major drug bust where 7 individuals have been arrested. Brown County Sheriff's Office says they found several firearms and a range of illegal substances, including fentanyl, cocaine, methamphetamine, marijuana in large quantities. In a First Alert update, Drew Best provides more details on today's drug bust.
Today, the Brown County Sheriff's Office, with the assistance of the FBI, the DEA, and the Brown County Drug Task Force, have announced they made 7 arrests pertaining to a multi-state drug trafficking investigation, leading to the largest seizure of powdered fentanyl in the history of the Brown County Drug Task Force. Brown County Sheriff Todd Delane says it's important to take out drug trafficking organizations from the top.
When you're able to get to the origin of where these drugs are coming from and being brought to Brown County, you know you're doing a great job, and that's what we're able to do.
Roughly 4.5 pounds of fentanyl were seized by officials, in addition to approximately 2.5 pounds of cocaine, 1.5 pounds of meth, nearly 5 pounds of marijuana, and 3 guns. Those numbers do not include the drugs and guns seized in Chicago, where the 7 suspects are believed to have gotten the drugs. There, officials found 13 guns, approximately 22 pounds of fentanyl, 6 pounds of cocaine, and 1 pound of heroin. Green Bay Police Chief Chris Davis saying it is their priority to help fight the nationwide drug epidemic.
And this is a huge amount of fentanyl that was seized in this case, and it's just another example of that problem that all the communities in the country face.
Even though the 7 people have not yet been charged for the July 10th drug bust, officials tell us that they are being held on significant cash bond until they make their first court appearance. That is when they are expected to receive formal charges. Reporting in Green Bay, Drew Best, Action 2 News.